I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Wednesday, April the 8th, brought to you in part by Ozark and Heart of America Beefmaster Breeders. They're having their 42nd annual sale this Saturday, April the 11th, at Springfield Livestock Marketing Center there in Springfield, Missouri at noon Central. If you're looking for hybrid vigor or heterosis in your herd, if your weaning weights are too low, maybe you want to add some longevity to your herd, you might want to think about a Beefmaster, but they'll have a lot of the top quality hybrid Beefmasters there at Springfield. And tune in to dvauction.com at noon on Saturday and view and bid that sale. Cattle board was limit up on Tuesday. You know, it showed some signs of life there on Monday, and then limit up on Tuesday, and I mean all the way limit up. All your contracts, both live cattle and feeder cattle, locked limit up as soon as the board opened and did not ever come off of it. So I'm not sure if that's something we can really get behind and get excited about. Who knows, it could be a limit down here on Wednesday, but at least we're starting to see people have a little bit of confidence, like I said on the last visit, that maybe not the world's coming to an end, and we are going to come back to life here at some point. But I tell you what, we just don't know what's going to happen going forward from here. Now let's say we have found kind of a bottom here on some of your futures prices and maybe in your cash market too. And maybe we're going to start trying to dig out of this hole that's been created by this coronavirus pandemic. But, you know, we've still got a lot of problems going forward. Not that fundamentals have anything to do with the market, mind you, but you can't really learn anything by looking at the charts and the technicals either, because we're in a crisis and we're not at the end of it yet. Although, like I said, we are starting to see some signs that maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and hopefully it's not a train. But you know, we've got some problems. These plants are cut way back, and we're starting to see it here as we work forward here this week, and it's starting to gain and gain it. We're going to see a big hole in our slaughter right here. So you've got a lot of plants that are just running one shift. And they're trying to do all they can on one shift. A lot of them are still running both shifts, but they've got their people spread out now, at least 6 feet, and taking a lot of precautions there due to the virus, and it's gonna really slow down production. And you think, well, you know, maybe we need to do that. Well, I don't know. As you know, they're completely shut off in the upper Midwest and the eastern Corn Belt going over there. All those sales there that usually get a handful of fat cattle, some cows and bulls, some feeders and everything, a lot of those are shut down this week and next week because their packer buyers told them they absolutely would not be there because they won't have a bid. And so many of these plants are full of just their already spoken for captive supplies of formula cattle and the like. So there's not going to be room for much cash cattle there. We saw that our cash sales in the 5-area feeding region were under 25,000 last week. That is minuscule. And if we're not able to kill those cattle, guys are going to hold them. The weights are going to keep getting heavier. Then we're going to get into a worse problem on heavy supplies right before we get to the summer months, when we're going to see our seasonal increase with all those calves that are going to be coming here probably before we get out of June. So that's going to be a big problem. Maybe a problem down the line too, as there's not going to be as much product going into the freezers for these packing plants. Then if we do stick to our April 30th deal and they start to open up some of these restaurants and things, the food service is going to have a big rush on trying to get beef into their freezers, and then we might run into a problem where we don't have enough product. And if we don't have enough product, if you thought people were scared and panic buying there before when we first come out of this, it could be even worse if we just don't have the product to get out there, because we don't have an overabundance of slaughter capacity as it is. And then if we're cut way back and then we have a big surge in buying, we might run completely out. And who knows how long it's going to be before these plants get back up to speed. You know, a lot of these workers, it's your frontline workers, and it's not just them. It's your dock workers, it's your fab workers, it's your truckers, it's all the way down the line. But your blue collar people there, they're scared too, and they hate to get out there and expose themselves, take it back to their family. A lot of them are looking at what they could get with unemployment and then a bonus on top of that, plus their check that they're going to be getting here before too awful long. And they're thinking, do I really want to work in this? And then you've got your unions right in the middle of it, and it's really unclear whether they're trying to get the workers into work or they're coaxing them to stay home to try to get more money for them. But we've got a lot of things to try to get over, and this thing is not going to be home free whenever we start coming out of this shutdown. But we've got a lot of more things coming up here. Your futures, let's look at them. Your live cattle were up the limit all the way through, like I talked about, and after April fell nearly $45 from its high in December until Monday, and then now we see up the limit. So maybe it has bottomed out there, but April live cattle futures up 450 at 88.32. That's your spot live cattle futures. And we did have a trade established on Tuesday at 105. So that's a heck of a good basis the guys are working with. But look at all the market position that they've lost, and it's going to take all that basis to probably get a lot of the guys, to break even. But June was up 450 also, like I said, at 84.80, and then all the rest of your traded contracts all the way through up the 450 limit. Feeder cattle for April up $4.50 too. $114.92, so $115, and now we're starting to see it line up. We've seen your cash feeders fall, and I mean like $20, $25, $28 last week in some of your late week sales. And now that your feeder cattle board on the spot April has come up, they're getting pretty close to each other right now. And May's up $4.50 at $113.80. All the rest of your feeder cattle up the $4.50 limit, and we'll see if they go beyond that as we work into Wednesday. But your fat cattle trade, not a lot of trade, but it was established, and I have to say I was pretty encouraged with what was established on Tuesday at 105, and not a lot of trade, but about 500 head in Nebraska confirmed. Kansas had about 1,000 confirmed at 105. There was more than that they didn't get all turned in. Texas had some sales, although they didn't have any on your mandatory price reporting report there. But Texas had some sales at 105 also. So it's enough to establish a market, at least for now. And, and that's $7 lower. But if somebody asked me on Monday what I thought the fat cattle market would be, I'd have probably said like 98 or maybe to hold a buck there, but $1.05. And I think that's probably for your formula guys more than anything, to try to get some kind of a weighted average established that they won't completely balk at and have an uprising. But it was some trade late last week on Thursday at 105, so it had been steady at that, but the bulk of your trade last week was at 112, so that'd be $7 lower. It did not have a voluntary report with USDA Ag Marketing Service market news there. I guess they just plumb forgot to put the voluntary report out, but all their efforts are all mandatory reporting now, and they don't care too much about your voluntary reports. But you look at the offering that's going to be available on your Fed Cattle Exchange on Wednesday morning, 7,600 head. There's a lot of corporate cattle for sale on there. We'll see how many of those sell. But I'm going to be getting out of here. I was traveling quite a bit when this corona first broke out, and kind of been shut up like the rest of everybody else has been for the last week or so. But going to be heading down to Fort Worth, Texas to help out with a Wolf Cattle Company sale there in Fort Worth, Texas. You guys can get on Thursday, dbauction.com. It'll be on noon. They've got over 450 lots. It'll be a huge sale there. They're only going to be having online bids and phone bids, guys. But get on there on Thursday at noon and bid on some of those Angus bulls, Limousine bulls, and Lim Flex bulls. But kind of looking forward to getting out of being shut up here, and haven't been out since they really called for the complete shutdown on everything. But it's going to be shut down in Fort Worth, except for just a few of us in there taking bids for that Wolf Angus sale. But I finally located me a mask, and I'm going to be putting that on, and I'm not exactly sure how that's going to work, but I think it'll work, and I think maybe I've got a shirt to match that to keep me safe from the rest of those boys that are in there taking bids. But let's look at your box beef cutout values. They were kind of mixed with choice down, select higher. So that's a good thing. We saw that on Monday, that we kind of established maybe a bottom or a floor, or at least a little bit of stability there in your market, and it's not being too crazy, and pretty good movement again. So I think some of these purchasers are thinking that with these plants backed off a little bit, that they better get in there and start buying some of this product up while they can. But choice cuts on Tuesday afternoon, 227.88, down $2.17. Selects 217.75, up 272, and that's a choice select spread that's narrowing at $10.13, and a pretty good movement again on Tuesday of 162 loads of cuts, grinds, and trimmings, and that's pretty good for a one-day deal. Your slaughter, like I said, it's starting to fall behind with each day. We're noticing it more and more, but 216,000 through Tuesday, that's 20,000 less than the same point in the week as the prior week, and 26,000 less than the same week a year ago. Let's look at some of your feeder cattle reports. Your real-time index on DV auction sitting at 117.11 late on Tuesday. That's down another $1.42. But you look at the steer tracker, and I've been trying to get you guys to kind of focus on that to give you a precursor of what's going to happen. But your steer tracker is your last 25 bunches that were recorded through Cattle Market Central there with DV Auction that are index cattle. And so your steer tracker is 123.15, so it was actually up. So we could look for your index levels to kind of start finding a bottom and rebounding here as we get to the middle of the week. And your CME cash feeder cattle index is now finally caught up, so we see that we're starting to not be quite so volatile. But your latest CME cash feeder cattle index sitting at 117.05. Let's look at some of your big sales on Tuesday. Winter livestock in La Junta, Colorado. John Campbell, my buddy there, said he'd had a big sale, and he did have a big sale. 4,600 feeders there. And I have to share with you, I was talking with John last week, and they didn't have much of a sale last week, but they did 2 weeks ago. But they've been planning on this big calf special that they had here on Tuesday of this week, and he was starting to get his cattle lined up, and he had an older lady that he was talking to that he knew was planning on consigning her calves, and he was talking to her on the phone, and you know, she's not doing any better than anybody else, and she had 500 head consigned there to the sale, and she kind of asked him what she could expect for her calves, and he gave her an idea, and she got pretty emotional on the phone. And I tell you what, that is heartbreaking. And you got to think about those people. It's not just the overall industry, it's the individuals that are trying to hold their operation together, and he thought maybe she might lose the ranch over the deal, but hopefully they sold better than what he feared. But look at some of these best tested weights on your automated market report here from DV Auction. 657 head of the 5-weight steers, averaged 551 at 155.53, not all bad. 789 head of the 6-weight steers, averaged 643 with a weighted average price of 138.15. Let's look at some of the heifers, and a lot of the lightweight heifers, almost 1,100 head just in the 5-weight category. They averaged 548 at 134.14, and 548 head of the 6-weight heifers averaged 642 at 121.58. How about a sale that had quite a few yearlings? Unionville Livestock Market. Kurt and Heather Spore Leader up there in Unionville, Missouri. That's extreme north central Missouri. You can throw a rock to Iowa from there. But look at some of these load lots that I pulled of yearlings right in there. And there was a calf deal or two on there, but mostly big yearlings in there. Had a load weighed 848 at 115.50. Not too shabby there. And then 2 loads weighed 935 on the average, sell at 110 and 110 and a dime. And you know, that's just the market, guys. That's just how bad it is there. But you look at how they replace those with big calf string there. 79 head of top quality 516-pound steer calves bring 185.75. So not too much off on your calf deals. Of course, we've got a lot of summer to cheapen those cattle up, and there's a lot of optimism in that purchase there. Let's look at another sale over in Kansas. Denny Rezac Livestock Commission. I've been giving you guys the markets out of there because you don't find them anywhere else, and he gets a lot of big strings in there. And look at these strings of cattle out of Rezac Livestock Commission, St. Mary's, Kansas. And the one thing that it's evident to me as I look at these steers here at Rezac, it's a long ways from 750 to 950 pounds. I tell you what, it's a long ways, about as far as I've ever seen it. But look, and this might have been a stick out deal, which I'm sure it was, but 115 head of 771 pound steers bring 143. And then 61 head of 945 pound steers bring 103. 40 bucks there. Wow. But your top quote comes out of a sale up there in northeastern Oklahoma, Welch Stockyards, Welch, Oklahoma. Like to give those guys a shout out. Really good people there. 57 head, 569 pound steers working towards 600 at 162 1/4. And that's your feeder flash for Wednesday.